We have several questions over here. You cannot see it, but the first actually was asked in English. So what's the most frustrating things that your organization encounters during our events, and how do you deal with that?
That's a hard question. I think sometimes people feel like they are hopeless, that they can't make change. So that's hard to overcome that sort of unwillingness to act. But I think how we work with it is helping for people to find what matters to them, and understanding that everyone can make a difference wherever you are, whatever you're doing right now, that you can make a difference on climate change. You have to find what's in your heart to know what you want to act on. Maybe it's working on poverty or hunger or biodiversity, but what's important to you will motivate you to act.
But how do you, if you were challenged when you interact with them? So have you ever been challenged by the participators?
Have I ever been changed by the participants?
I mean, because maybe they argue with you that you need to do more things or any other things?
You know, I don't think we've ever been challenged. I think it's more that we want to do more all the time.
Okay.
We're constantly wanting to accelerate and scale the action that we have. I think frustrating might be that as a NGO, we are a small team. So to work in a global way can be very challenging. But we rarely encounter climate denial. We don't encounter pushback at any of our youth climate summits, and we have summits all over the world. So young people, I think working in partnership with young people makes a big difference, because you're really listening to what they need and what they want to do and how they want to act.
OK， 好，我简单的跟各位说明一下哈，因为各位应该在如果说你扫这个 QR code 的话，你也会看到那个题目嘛啊。就刚的那个题目，基本上我想这个问的人是说在过程里面，过去办过那么多活动，最让你觉得frustrate 啊，就让你觉得比较有点挫折的是怎么样的事情啊？那刚才Jen 大概有提到一下啊，因为大概有一些参与的青年朋友，他们自己可能不是觉得那么样的有信心，或是觉得没有什么希望啊，所以呢，他们会去跟这些青年朋友沟通啊，希望他们可以探索一下自己的内心世界，也许都还会有一些新的事情可以来讨论让大家觉得更有希望感一点。那刚才我有问他了，就是有没有在办活动的时候被挑战过基本上他大概提到了这些所谓的气候变迁的反对论者基本上大概不太会来参加他们的活动。不过各位知道那是的确存在的事情因为刚才大概就这个相关的问题就是第二个刚好现在各位看到的第二个。So the second question. Well, is that the political polarization in the United States, maybe part of the citizens and also the high-level politicians, they oppose the statement about climate change. So, does it become an obstacle for any kind of climate action for you?
That's a very good question. So the political polarization in the United States can be quite challenging. However, there's a lot, when you work at the community level, there's a demand for change, especially by young people. So we work all over the United States, in states that are quite challenged by the politics. Sometimes they might change the name to Youth Environmental Summit, or so they might not say climate change, but we are working on climate change no matter what. So work at the community and school level makes a really big difference, and we try to put the politics aside and just concentrate on what actions we can do and what work we can do in a school and in a community that creates change. I mean, creating a garden and helping to feed people that are food insecure, no one can say that that is bad, but we are creating hope through small action, but if we can do that everywhere, we create a big action.
OK 这个题目大家应该都看到哈，这个Jen刚大概意思是说哈，当然这是一个真正的问题，而且这是一个挑战啊。但是因这个挑战，所以他们有很多不同的做法。有时候的做法就是把政治先摆在一边，然后在社区啊，在学校里面先去做一些大家都不会说那是不对的事情，譬如说在学校里面去做一个菜园，做一个花园。从小的地方开始着手啊，这样子建立希望感，而且呢比较不会造成一些争议性啊。大致上的意思是这个啊。
May I also add that the research demonstrates across the United States, there's the Yale Climate Communication does amazing work looking at opinions across the U.S. The majority of Americans, 70 to 80%, believe that climate change is happening, that is here, it's now, it's caused by us, and they want action to happen. So if we focus on public opinion and not politics, we can get a lot done.
OK 刚才Jen特别提到了哈，这个因为各位知道美国会常做一些民意调查哈，那现在应该也就显示了大部分的人啊，大部分的美国人基本上是同意气候变迁正在发生，正在这里发生，而且呢，是我们造成的啊，所以呢，他们基本上有一个想法，就是说他们去跟公众沟通，而不是和政客沟通啊。但是美国的政客，各位应该知道，美国的政客里面大概就会有蛮多的相当的比例哈，但也不会超过一半，但是相当的比例，基本上谈到气候变迁的态度呢，就是另外一种态度啊。OK， 好，现在OK, we have the third question is that do you think climate change education for the adults is also important?
Absolutely. The answer is yes. Yes, of course. We need everyone to be understanding climate change, from young people to old people. It has to be an intergenerational approach to creating climate action, and we have to all work together. So it is as important for older people to get on board. It's not something you can say, oh, the young people will take care of everything. That is not fair. To do that, everyone must take action and must get involved. So adult education and climate education is important.
OK， 各位知道这问题吗？就是说，气候变迁教育对于大人来讲，哈，对于成人来讲，是不是也是非常重要？他的直接回答，那当然啊。而且呢，我们这个大人们不能说啊，这个事情就让年轻世代去处理就好了啊。事实上，真的非常重要。刚刚这个题目后面大家问说，这个问题目的人有提到说，台湾的很多的成人，但基本上缺乏这方面的素养啊，这个的确是哈。那刚才Jen 也跟我们谈了一下他的看法啊。好，那我们再往下看往下的题目 ，OK， do you ever face the situations that you lack of money, financial support, or supporters from other aspects, and how do you deal with that and try to overcome this kind of problems?
Yes, as a NGO or nonprofit, we have to raise money. One part of my job is writing grants, talking to donors, asking for money. It can be very frustrating sometimes if we don't have enough. But I just keep trying. I don't give up. I find other ways. Maybe we do things differently, or we do online youth climate summit or something that costs less money. So we try to be really creative and work with our other organizations to create change. You can always find a way if you think about it.
OK， 这个问题是用中文问的哈，所以大家应该看得到哈，就是他们在执行这些气候变迁行动的时候，是遇到过资金不足的问题啊。那当然他提到了，因为是 NGO 嘛，我想这个全世界的 NGO 大家都一样啊。NGO 当然就会面临到这方面的问题，那他们就是 keep trying， 就是不断的尝试啊。那也许最后就找到了这个相对的方法了啊。So do you have any another part of the question is that the supporters, maybe not financially, but other kind of supporters, have ever trying to find more supporters for you?
Yes, we're always looking for supporters. I think everywhere there are people that care about acting on climate change. So you just start the conversation, like what do you think about climate change? What you want to talk about it. It's actually interesting with the research, one of the challenges about climate change is that nobody talks about climate change. So one of the most important things is to actually talk about it, like with your family, with your friends, around the dinner table, to everywhere you go. I talk about climate change all the time. I will talk about climate change. So that's how we find more support, and we create relationships and build partnerships to create change. So talk more about climate change everywhere you go.
OK， 我刚刚就问这个问题的另外一半啊，就是说支持者嘛，就不见得是财务上面的支持者，的其他方面的支持者。当然他提到了说，当然建立对话是非常重要的一件事情啊，所以他这个就是跟很多不同的人，跟家里面的人，或跟朋友，或者甚至在餐桌上面，大家会常谈到气候变迁，所以这个是找寻支持者的非常重要的一个方式啊。那我想这个就是尤其在美国这样的氛围里面哈，这个对他们来讲当然是非常重要的哦。好，next question is that how did the students have the chance to have the dialogue with the government? How did they do this? They prepared a proposal, or they prepare anything or any other else to initiate this kind of a dialogue?
Yes, that's a great question. So in working with local or city or state government, we do much work to prepare the students. They come up with an idea, they want to prepare their talking points, and then they approach the government, or we might know somebody, we find a way to get invitations. Most of the time, our government officials want to hear from young people. So it's finding that open door, and we show up at events. So it takes a lot of persistence and time, but young people can really make a difference in having those conversations, and can open doors to create conversation and dialogue and create change, because if elected officials really want to hear, they do want to hear from young people. It's important to them. It's also very hard for elected officials to say, no, I don't want to hear from young people. That doesn't look good to them. So you can, find a door, an entry point in to speak with locals. But we do a lot of preparation and lots of practice beforehand, before going into meetings. And the youth really work on preparing what they want to say. I mean, it takes time and preparation, but it can happen.
So you help the students?
Yes, we work with them. We don't tell them what to say, but we help them practice and help them learn about good communication skills. It's both working on understanding the climate content and the impacts, but it's also around growing leadership skills. So around being a good communicator, knowing how to prepare and be professional and present to local government or city, or even at the federal government. Like, we have gone to the White House, we have gone to the UN climate conferences and have young people present, and they have done amazing.
Okay. 好，这个问题啊，刚才 Jen 提了很多哈，基本上在美国的氛围里面，不管是地方政府啊，或是州政府，或是联邦政府，基本上都不会希望被人家说成他不想听年轻人的意见了啊。所以呢，就有很多的管道啊，那有一些是定期的，有一些是一些特别的会议，譬如说到白宫去，或者说参加联合国的一些气候会议。那他们的角色，他们会协助这些年轻朋友啊，去准备他们该怎么样在这样的场合和这些政治人物或和这些民意代表等等他们沟通啊，让他们的意见可以更清楚地表达出来。但是他不会去跟他们讲说要说什么了啊，是协助他们准备这个 presentation 啊，就是如何准备简报，然后如何去把自己的意见比较充分地表达出来啊。那这个就是他刚回答大致上的内容。
So may I add?
Yeah.
Yes. One thing that we ask people to do is think about their own climate story. What is it about climate change that is, why do you want to work on this issue? Like, what is it for you? What is it, the relevance and meaningful? For example, for me, I was drawn to work on climate change because of two reasons. One, because I live in a very cold, wintry place, but I love the cold and I love winter. But I saw that in my home that the winters were changing. Like there is not as much snow, it gets warm during the winter, it causes lots of ice and problems. And it really scared me. Like I've seen it in my lifetime, these changes. And now there's more like ticks, human health issue with the ticks, the disease from the ticks, and also the flooding that is impacting our small community. So this is change happening where I live, and I grew really concerned about that. And also, I think, so finding what matters to you and sharing that and really understanding what your own climate story is can be a very powerful tool to talking about climate change, is through story.
好，就Jen 刚特别提到啊，就是每一个人都可以有自己的跟气候有关的故事啊，所以呢，说出自己经历过的事情，其实是最有效的一种沟通方式。那刚才他也提到有关于他自己啊，因为他住的地方是纽约州的北部哈，那个在纽约州叫 Upstate 啊，那个地方基本上就是很冷的地方，所以呢，他自己观察到那么多年以来，他住的地方这个冬天的一些变化，因为他喜欢很冷的气候啊，但是这个冬天也不断在变化。那可能影响到了，比方说会淹水啊等等的很多的问题，甚至还有一些健康方面的议题啊。那讲了自己的亲身经历，这个在沟通上面就更有力量啊。所以他刚特别提到，他觉得这是一个很好的可以切入讨论啊气候变迁的方式，甚至说和政府官员之间去讨论气候变迁，这都是一个很好的方式。OK， 接下来我看到的这应该是一位老师哈，方和高中的一位朱老师提到的，现在的这个气候活动啊，要怎么样可以带到学校课程里面啊？我想这个问题也可以来请教Jen啊。So we have a high school teacher asked, how could we introduce climate action into the school's curricula? So do you have any chance or experience in this?
Yes, we have a lot of experience. So doing the climate action in the schools, we have a whole toolkit on our website that you are welcome to use. Maybe we translate it. And that way it could be used in the schools. And it's like a step-by-step way of getting young people to think about what motivates them to act on climate change and think about what are challenges in your school or in your community that you would like to work on? One thing that's really, I think, effective in this is having young people work in teams, not just by themselves. It's important as a team to learn to work together and then to take action in your school or your community. But those teams identify what those problems are. They have to maybe look around their school, look in their community, and think about what is it that I care about and what I want to change and make a difference, and then come up with a plan. We have all the materials that I am happy to share. They're free. Anyone can use them, and we can make it happen tomorrow or now.
OK， 那个Jen提到他们的这个组织就有很多相关的课程啊，大家如果有兴趣的话，可以去 download 啊，或者说我们把它翻译成中文，大家来使用都可以啊。另外一方面就是说，他们这些课程里面当然会鼓励呢，这个社区和学校可以一起哈在里面去做一些事情啊。这样的话，这些气候的行动或相关的教材，基本上它更有在地性，也比较更容易推广哈。那他也表达出，如果将来有机会合作的话，他非常的乐意啊。Okay, we have another question. Is that climate action? Is that just for some richer or places with already have some resources? How about for those least developed places or rural areas?
Yes, so we work in a lot of rural communities and also all over the world in different places where we have affected change doing climate action. It works everywhere. Like we've, as I said, have done over 165 youth climate summits globally in 9 countries and 26 US states. So we know that it works everywhere, in cities, in rural communities. So I think that you can do it anywhere. You just have to have the will to try and to, and it might take a little work for planning, but then it will, I promise it will work.
OK， Jen 提到他们这个事实上在美国就20几个州哈，全世界160几个地方，就是各种不同形式的地方，不管是比较富裕的，或是比较落后的偏乡啊等等各种地方，他们会看各自的 issue， 就当地的议题，还有各自的需要哈，所以对他们来讲，这个是非常普遍的啊，就是没有说一定限制在怎么样的地方哈。那他们应该也非常有经验，在各种不同类别的地方，而且在全世界各地都在办类似的活动。哦，好，那接下来有一个组织啊，这个希望说能够和Jen 这边有后续的合作机会，我都可以帮他回答，他一定说愿意的啊。但我还是问一下他啊。We have a local organization. Well, that's for youth environmental welfare. They show their will to cooperate with you, and I answer for you. The answer should be yes.
Yes. Yes. Let's go.
OK， 我想这个如果有兴趣的话，我们后续可以再一起来有一些这个讨论的机会哈。好，OK， it is a big question. How do you think, economic development, everlasting economic development will influence the climate and cause more negative impacts because of the climate change?
Could you restate the
Okay.
question? Sorry.
Economic development.
Yes.
So because we always talk about economic development. So how do you think? So it's a big question that do you think of the economy will influence the climate in the following years?
Yeah, it's very, I think that unfortunately, we have in this, there's been this kind of an economy versus environment as opposed to, or versus climate change, but it should be economy and climate solutions. So if we think about the need right now, and yesterday, we had a session in the afternoon focused on green job development and looking at how many green jobs will be available in Taiwan and in the growth sectors across all of the areas for green jobs and the opportunities for young people to pursue a climate-ready pathway. This is the same in the United States, very similar, that we have all these opportunities for green jobs and climate-ready workforce, but we don't yet have the workers to do that. So there's actually a huge potential for economic growth and climate solutions, and we must have both. We have to have both, so we can actually make that work. It's a huge opportunity for anyone here that might be looking for a job or looking for their career to think about how can my career be a climate career? Because every career can, every job can. So we can have both economic growth and we can have just climate solutions. And we must think of that, think of the innovation and the creativity needed. I think that the new Taipei city government is already demonstrating that innovation from the presentations earlier today and from the visits that I've had the last couple of days. And so I think there's much opportunity to think about economic growth and just climate solutions for a low carbon economy.
OK， Jen 的意思有很清楚了，就是说我们当然通常大家都会谈说经济对应环境好像是个对立面的这个二元论啊。那他的看法是我们更可以这么说，就经济发展还有 气候变迁我们相关的一些工作的机会或发展的机会哦，把它当成是正向的同样的这个角度来看待，就包括了事实上昨天下午在另外一个地方的昨天下午的活动，基本在讨论绿领工作这样的机会啊。所以事实上我们可以想说，我们的工作是不是可以也算是跟气候有关的一些工作哈？这也是我们这个活动事实上我们办理的目的嘛。好，各位也知道，那包含他刚才也提到了新北市整体基本上从他这几天走了好多的地方。也听到了刚才局长还有一些同仁刚才大家的这个说明跟报告，他也觉得说我们都在往这个方向在努力中大家其实可以换一个角度来思考，不见得经济的发展和气候变迁之间呢就一定是一个对立的关系。Okay, I think that we will have a last question this morning. 好，我想我们就按照这个排行来啊。Okay, he or she says that many friends or family members here they are using paper cups or the one-time, just for single use tools. So, how could I open the dialogue with their friends, family members, so that we can start talking about climate change or recycling?
It's a great question. I believe that we all have what I call a sphere of influence, people that we talk to, our family, our friends. And if by example, if you are using your cups and you're not using plastic, they will see you doing that, and they may be opportunity to start talking about, well, why do you use this cup instead of a paper cup? Oh, this is easy, I create less waste. So you have the opportunity to create influence with your family and with your friends by the example that you set. By the things that you do every day, you can be an example, a model for them to follow. And it also, creates that conversation. And you also, I think in those conversations, it's important to really listen to what they're thinking about. What do they care about? How can we listen better in order to build those relationships and solve the problems that we need to together?
Okay, Jen 刚特别提到就是说如果说我们自己在做一些事情，比方说我们今天自己准备了一个杯子嘛，我们就可以跟他们说这个杯子是怎么回事哈。那同样的也听一下他们的意见或他们觉得可以怎么做哈。那这样的一种互动建立起来之后呢，接下来就比较有机会可以讨论到更深度的一些意见交流，甚至将来有更多的合作的机会啊。这是刚才Jen跟大家说的啊。那我想今天早上因为时间的关系哈，我们也许就只能先进行到这个地方哈。非常感谢各位，那我想我们再把时间交还给主持人哈。谢谢大家，谢谢。